exodus from the city in which the will of the people triumphed over the dark forces of extremism, from the city which was able to crush terrorism under the feet of her sons and daughters, and from the city that refused to live under the black flag, we send you good news of the people's freedom, and we thank you, along with Comrade Joshua Versami and all those who participated in the solidarity rally against the massacre in Kobani. Greetings from our heroes on the battlefronts in Kobani, to you in the city of fog, London, and to all those who are now standing in condemnation of the heinous massacre carried out by the Islamic State organisation, with the support of Syrian opposition coalition and the Turkish AKP government of Erdogan. Kobani, a city whose echoes of resistance reverberated throughout the land, proving that no force can stand against the will of the people, where the victories of its sons and daughters, facing armoured vehicles and myriad heavy weapons with only their rifles, were recorded. It is the city that ended the dominance of the dark forces in the region. It is the city that taught a lesson to those who support terrorism. It is a city that is small, modest and wounded, yet still strong and steadfast. It is Kobani. After a series of defeats inflicted by Islamic State across all battlefronts, and after the liberation of Tel Abyad, a city that links Kobani and many Kurdish towns in the east, and that serves as a point of separation between ISIS and the Erdogan government, they could not accept the defeats which had been inflicted upon them.
On the 25th of June 2015, exactly at 4 a.m, a group of mercenaries 100 strong from the Islamic State, but financed by the Turkish government and the Syrian opposition coalition and disguised in YPG uniforms, crept into Batan, a town 30 kilometers south of Kobani, and killed 28 people, the majority women and children. They then headed to Kobani itself, killing all who stood in their way, and managed to enter the city. They then dispersed and waited. At precisely 4:30 a.m, we begin to hear the sounds of gunfire. People came outside to see what was going on. Defenseless people were killed in their homes, others in front of their doors and in the streets, where they killed children, women and the elderly, sparing no one. Terror overshadowed the city once again, and blood began to flow in the streets and on the pavements, staining the beds of children red. None could protect themselves, save for staying at home and awaiting pity from their Lord. The massacres of civilians lasted more than 3 hours, while no one knew what was happening. During these hours, the People's Protection Units managed to surround the city, cordoning it off from all sides. Once the ISIS units realized the YPG had arrived, they began returning fire and stationing snipers on buildings with floodlights, where they targeted anything that moved. The clashes lasted 3 days and nights. Some were shot, and some blew themselves up with explosive belts. Some tried to escape, and some lay silently somewhere in the city. The death toll from the massacre surpassed 350, with 500 wounded, all of whom were civilian, women and children. This terrorist act demonstrates their vulnerability and the strength of their terror, because they are unable to stand against our heroes in battle, and so must resort to that which is essential to their work: terrorism. This is the reality of the Islamic State and all who support them. Despite their crimes, which are apparent in the here and now, their foolishness pushed them to fight against the Kurds, against people who don't know the meaning of fear nor of defeat, people who fight on the side of humanity, fraternity and coexistence, people who do not abandon the path painted with the blood of martyrs, people who refuse to make history unless it was through sacrifice and victory. The Kurdish people from the spring of Kurdistan, the fortress of Kobani.
In my name, and in the name of the sons and daughters of Kobani, we call out to all organisations concerned with humanity and hope that they will stand with us to meet this radical terrorism, which has become a threat to all people wherever they are. Support this small city that has suffered under the siege of ISIS, as they time after time sacrifice their lives to defend against the most heinous terrorist organisation in the world.
So we urge and request of you the support that we might continue our resistance. We thank you again for the march of indignation against the massacre in Kobani. Eternal glory to the martyrs for humanity, death and annihilation to terrorism. Your friend, Chef Khan, Kobani.
Vigil, Berfadana Kobani. Vigil, Berfadana Kobani. Vigil, Berfadana Kobani.